What's good, everyone? This is Dr. Nee. I got a special episode for you, but before we jump into this, I want to quickly tell you about my upbringing and how my thoughts on money are in regards to real estate and working. So, listen, when I grew up, there was this expectation of being successful, and I'm starting to learn now that there's a difference between being or having that expectation of being successful versus having that expectation of wealth. And for me, it was, look, you got to work hard. You study hard, you come in, day out, and you work your butt off, and eventually you will make yourself or get yourself to a different social rung. You can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer, you can be an engineer, you can be a teacher. But the discussion about money and discussion of wealth, those were the things that we necessarily didn't talk about in our family. Fast forward to now, I am a physician. After all the years of all this hard work, I got to this point. I think one of the things that I'm starting to realize now is that in order for me to make money, it's all in regards to me going to work. I have to go to work. As a trauma surgeon, that stuff is pretty stressful, right? From, what I do from a trauma standpoint to surgical critical care, as well as to, what I do in the operating room, it can be really stressful. So there is a need for me to want to think about being smarter with my money, being able to buy back time. And how do I do that? And I think that one of the things that I'm starting to embrace, and me and Dr. Renee are starting to embrace, is the concept of investing our money in other things so that it can help us buy back our time, right? That's super important. And last year, we purchased a 6-unit property in Pennsylvania. We did it on our own. We did the research on our own. But I'm not going to lie to you, it was hard, right? But I'm not saying that we're coming off of that energy. We really enjoy what we're doing. But we had to do a lot of the research on our own. We had to do a lot of the deals on our own. It was tough, but we're excited to do it again. And I think for me, the notion of real estate, of me purchasing something and then someone renting it or using it and then paying us for it and us being able to use that to help grow our wealth or help buy back time is something that really resonates with me. So I have with me the folks from Awning who are here. I have Shri as well as Dre from Awning, who are here to talk about why real estate is important and their new company, or at least their company, what they can do to help busy professionals like me, like you who's listening to this show, how we can really use technology, how we can be smarter with getting our real estate to build that empire, to buy our time back and do all the things that we want to do. So Shri, Dre, welcome to Docs Outside the Box. I'm sorry about the long introduction, but sometimes I get my feelings involved in things, but welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dr. Nee. Really excited to be here with you.
Yes. Super excited. Listen, before we start, can you guys introduce yourselves? Tell me where you are with Awning, where you fit in there, and then we'll jump right into it.
Yeah, I can start. So I'm Shri Ganeshram. I'm the CEO and founder of Awning. We've been working on Awning for the last 2 years. And then we have Dre here, who was our first hire at Awning.
No pressure, Dre.
Awesome. Yeah. My name's Dre, or Andreas Bergeron. I'm heading up our brokerage operations here. And as Shri said, been a part of Awning since the beginning. So it's been a really exciting journey so far.
Well, let's jump into like my story before, which is work hard, play hard, but also at the same time, not necessarily sophisticated with how I make money and what I do with my money. So now I want to do that. Tell me what Awning is first, and what can Awning do for someone like me?
Yeah, so Awning is a technology platform and service that helps individual investors invest in real estate. We do that by one being a brokerage. As you know, Dr. Nee, having started the process, you get to meet an Awning advisor who's a licensed real estate agent, and that person is an expert in real estate investing and only helps individuals with the real estate investing process. The reason we have, the reason I emphasize that person's an expert in real estate investing is your typical real estate brokerage is just helping, people buy a home for themselves. And so they don't know how to look at the numbers and find the right deals and speak the language that you need them to speak as an individual investor yourself. Additionally, we have a platform that basically analyzes every single listing in the markets that we service and then figures out kind of what the best listings are from an investment perspective. So Awning as a company, we have kind of an internal purview of, what's the cash flow on any given property in the market? what the potential appreciation is for that property. And then your awning advisor works for you to figure out what your goals are and sets the platform up in a way in which it starts producing properties for you that are perfect fits for your own needs as an individual investor.
Is there a lot of artificial intelligence that goes on into this?
Yeah, so we use a lot of big data and artificial intelligence in order to basically predict numbers like the rent numbers, the expenses, the growth in the market. And then additionally, we don't stop there. Models only go so far. I'm sure all of you have seen a Zestimate that's gone wrong.
Oh,
We have
it's like always wrong, basically.
It's always wrong with Zillow for sure. And so we have a team of individuals who actually come from institute backgrounds. They help the biggest folks in the industry, folks like Goldman Sachs, buy single family rental homes as rental properties. They're excited about helping the retail investor, the consumer. And so they work for Awning, and they actually look at the homes that our algorithms have found and give them a manual review to ensure that the numbers are super accurate. And so that's why, when you work with Awning, you kind of have this magical experience of logging on the platform and, feeling comfortable with the numbers and seeing numbers that, are more accurate than you'd find anywhere else, whether that be Zillow or any other real estate site.
Well, you stepped into it by mentioning Goldman Sachs, but I know from my experience, I am hearing on the news a lot that Wall Street is jumping into Main Street and purchasing a lot of homes, single family homes, commercial property. And there's a thought process that it's too late to buy real estate, or the prices have increased so much that it's really not reasonable or it's not, what's the word I want to use? It's unattainable for someone like me, or even someone who doesn't make six figures to get property. Talk to me about that. Is it too late?
Yeah, it's definitely not too late to buy investment properties. These big investors are smart, right? They beat the retail investor in the stock market. There's a reason they're going into real estate right now. There's a few fetching up price. So one of them is we're in a housing shortage in the United States. We have the largest population ever of new families coming to fruition, with the millennial population just being much more populous than Gen X or baby boomers. And with those families that are being formed, people are looking to increasingly rent single family homes in the United States. The issue is there just aren't enough single family homes in the United States, and that gap is continuing to widen. Right now, there's an estimated 5.5 million home shortage across the United States. And then when you kind of project out where supply gaps are, there's expected to be a 700,000 home deficit growing every year. So next year, it's going to be 6.2 million. The year after that, it's going to be 6.9 million for the next decade. And so with this widening gap, you're going to see home prices appreciate as more owners, are searching for fewer homes that are available. And then you are also going to see rents grow dramatically. And so, the notion that things are too expensive is really just a reflection of our historical reality when we didn't have this supply shortage. And so, investors would come in buying a rental property thinking they were going to get massive cash flow on day one. Today, that's not the case, because that massive cash flow is expected to happen a couple years down the line. These rents are growing much faster than they ever have previously. Additionally, with the appreciation coming on board, if you look at a normal real estate investment, you're putting 20% down, you're getting 3% appreciation a year on the home value. That's just 15% returns on appreciation. With appreciation expected to go above and beyond that 3%, that more than makes up for any gap in cash flow. And so I think right now is a great time to buy real estate. I personally am buying rental properties at this time. And so
tell us where you're buying, Sheree. Tell us where you're buying. We want to know the cheat code. Tell us.
Yeah. So the markets that I'm most interested in are the Texas and Florida markets.
Okay.
The reason I like those markets a lot is, one, they're very investor friendly. And so you don't have to deal with regulatory issues investing in those markets. Additionally, both those markets are expected to have insane population growth. So as you think about, we have this shortage in supply, And then you look at cities like Dallas and Houston and Tampa and Miami, you look at all these cities and you're seeing populations expected to grow according to the US Census by 20% over the next 10 years. You do the math and you can quickly see, wow, there's just not enough homes in those areas. And so those homes that do exist, they're going to appreciate and they're going to be more expensive to rent.
All right. Thank you for clearing that up. Now, here's one thing that I've been struggling with. So I'm going to use this episode as you trying to help me, get more into real estate investing because I'm not going to lie, I'm really safe on a lot of things. So for me, what I've been really focusing on and doubling down on is index funds, which is the stock market, investing in Vanguard funds and Schwab funds from so many different things, ETFs and so forth. So talk to me, like, why should someone like me be interested in diversifying into real estate as opposed to just doubling down 100% on stocks?
Well, Dr. Nee, you want to have a diversified portfolio. You don't know the day you're going to retire, right? The
yet.
Real estate market and the stock market aren't correlated generally, except for the 2008 recession when the stock market got their hand too heavy on mortgages. But because you're going to retire at some point, having that diversified portfolio is important because you might be in a recession in one market and not in the other. And as you need to pull cash out of that retirement fund, it's going to be better for you. Additionally, doing the work to invest in real estate, while not as passive as investing in the stock market, though I hope Awning can make it that way for you and your experience, enables you to just generate an outsized return over the stock market. As I mentioned, you're putting 20% down on a property. Home price appreciation has been above 3% a year on average historically over the last 50 years. If you're holding this property long, that's a 15% return a year on that 20% down. Additionally, your tenant is paying equity. Additionally, you're going to see some cash flow from that investment. And so that puts you in a really great place. After that, if you look at kind of where the stock market's today, it's become a much less dividend friendly environment as the valuation of stocks has been pushed up. What's nice about holding these rental properties is that because rent has grown consistently year over year, even in investment today, that might be cash flow break even or even at a loss. By the time you retire, call it 10, 20, 30 years from now, those properties are going to be generating cash flow in a very significant way. Once you pay off that mortgage in 30 years, they're definitely going to be paying cash flow in a very, very significant way. And so that means you don't even have to sell your portfolio to retire. You can retire off of it. And it's something you can pass on to your children, once it's your time to leave the planet, which puts them in a good position, for the rest of their life.
So
it's funny you mentioned that. Oh, Dre, go ahead. Jump on in.
Yeah, I was also going to jump in more around kind of the taxation side. So, not only are you going to be able to see, more steady cash flows and appreciation over time, but you're going to be able to take advantage of the tax deferral strategy of real estate and being able to, write off depreciation, as well as when you go to sell that property, being able to roll all over those gains through a 1031 exchange. So when you, buy Tesla and it goes up 500% over a couple of years, you then have 20% of capital gains tax to pay. With real estate, you can roll that over in a 1031 exchange into bigger and larger portfolios, and then ultimately pass that down to your heirs and continue to grow that portfolio without having to pay taxes.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I'm starting to realize, it's not about what you make, it's about what you keep.
Yep.
And I think obviously taxes plays a huge role in that. And I was really interested in what you said about having to give away some stock so that you can live, right? When you get to a point where you're retiring. So me and Renee recently hit a number that, like, for a while I really wanted to hit, and I was super focused on that. Once we got our debt paid off, we hit that number, years later, and we have a long ways to go. But for me, that was really a symbolic number that just meant something to me, right? Nobody else in my family had hit that. When I mentioned it to her, she was kind of like, yeah, I mean, it's nice and all, but can we live off of that, right? Can you sell that information, or can you sell that amount and that we can live off of that, right? And the more we live, the more that number dwindles down. And I was like, damn, why you like pissing on our parade and stuff? But then I finally got it. I got what she said, and it correlates with what you're saying, Shri, that it really is about just, instead of just like stacking money, it's really important to have something that can pay you something without necessarily losing value on that. So I really get that. I really got those sentiments and really hit us personally when with that example. So now the next thing that we are interested in is we live in a high cost of area living. So we live in New Jersey. Obviously a lot of people have been leaving New York, moving to New Jersey, and that's driven the costs really high. And for us, really, like, if we were to get a property in New Jersey, like, that would basically like drain all of our resources and all of our money. We'd only be able to maybe get one single property house or maybe one duplex or something like that. So because of that, and we want our money to kind of stretch further, we want to look further away, right? But like I said earlier, like, I'm working all the time. Like, I'm gone for weeks on end sometimes. My wife, there's 2 kids in the house. She's also running the podcast. She's also a physician herself, so she's taking call. Like, being able to scour different markets and look at the demographics and all these different things. Talk us through how you help people, particularly busy professionals, look at properties that are far from them and be able to make decisions that they can feel really confident about.
Yeah, absolutely, Dr. Nee. So half of our 90% of our customers have purchased remotely, and 100% of our customers are busy professionals like yourself. And so this is a huge part of what we do and how we help people every day. I think what's exciting about the Awning process and platform is by having agents in these different states that you can meet with over Zoom calls or talk to on the phone, and having a platform that surfaces the property with all the data and information that you need to make an educated decision, we're able to manage the entire acquisitions process remotely. Unlike a traditional brokerage, we don't stop at, hey, here's the keys to the house, you're good to go. Once you purchase a home with Awning, we've already vetted property managers in every market we're in, the same property managers we'd use to manage our own portfolios. And we hand you off to a property management partner of your choice, and we'll recommend you a handful that are great. They get involved in the process all the way through closing to make sure that when we're saying, hey, Dr. Nee, we think this property is going to rent for $1,800 a month, the property manager is saying, hey, Dr. Nee, I'm going to get this property rented for you at $1,800 a month.
Yeah. A lot of times there's a disconnect there too. Yeah. So that's great.
Huge disconnect, right? Yeah. And we want to be held accountable throughout the process and just make sure that our customers, can trust us by introducing these third parties earlier. Additionally, that property manager at that point takes care of everything from finding the tenant and leasing up the property, managing any minor repairs and maintenance on the property. Oftentimes, homes need a fresh coat of paint for a new tenant, or they need a few little tweaks to be done in order to get up to code. And then handling those day-to-day operations with the tenant, the toilet breaks or the garbage disposal is no longer
That's
working.
the thing that a lot of people always say, like, hey, man, I want to get into real estate, but I don't feel like getting those 2:00 in the morning calls. First of all, I'd like to tell people like that, even if you don't have a property manager, that's really unlikely that that'll occur. But having a property manager helps with that.
Absolutely.
Now, the question I have is in terms of the property managers. I know that oftentimes, they cost something. What on average, like, who are you teaming up with? Like, what are their rates? What's the percentage that they're taking on top of or from the total rents that you should expect on your rental property?
Yeah, usually property managers charge about 8% of rent on a monthly basis. There's also generally a lease up fee. The average tenant stays in a single family home for about 3 years. We've actually seen it be a lot more during this pandemic, 4.5 years. No one wants to move during, coronavirus. And so the lease up fee is typically about 1 month's rent. And then there's about an 8% property management fee. Now, it varies from property manager to property manager. There's property managers we can hook you up with that will charge $29 a month, which is far less than 8% of rent in the lease up. And there's property managers that will charge more than that 8%, but provide a higher quality of service. And so it really depends on what you're looking for. There's not a one size fits all solution for everyone, but that's what's important about having a partner like Awning in this process, is that we can, help understand what you want your time commitment to be to this entrepreneurial endeavor of yours, and then figure out what the best cost benefit trade-off is for you in moving forward.
So like what's, in terms of the listeners, what's the first couple of steps working with whoever's listening to the show and they're like, oh, I want to team up with Awning, like, but what's that first couple of steps look like, the onboarding process?
Dre, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, for sure. I'll jump in. So yeah, step number one is just going to awning.com and signing up. Takes about 30 seconds, answering a quick couple of questions. And then you'll be assigned to your client advisor. And all of our client advisors are licensed real estate agents, and they're all experts in work specifically with individual investors. I know yourself, you're working with Humberto. He's got about 4 or 5 years of working with investors, as well as has his own investment portfolio in Houston. So you'll have what we call a consultation call. And the goal of that first call is to first understand your goals. How do those goals align to a strategy? And how do those strategies align to specific markets and underlying neighborhoods? So a lot of the time, like you mentioned, when people live in certain locations, they don't have access to higher cash flowing areas, maybe in the Southeast to like Tennessee and Alabama. And then other people in those areas might not have access to higher appreciating markets like Dallas or Tampa. So what we allow you to do is be able to provide you with, a holistic, almost turnkey offering to be able to access any sort of investment real estate, whether that's a focus on cash flow or that's a focus on, long-term appreciation and growth. And so once you have that call, they're able to better understand what you're looking for. They're able to customize the portal to your needs. And then after that, the next step is typically a market selection and property evaluation. So what they do is then give you a deep dive of each market that you're interested in and give a high level overview of, why we select these markets, what are kind of the macro level trends as far as population growth and job growth, and how those things end up correlating to the cash on cash returns or the cap rates or the yield that you can see on an annual basis for any given, submarket or market or particular property. So that really gives a holistic understanding to each customer on what they can expect, give them an understanding of that knowledge of each market so they feel comfortable transacting.
That's been one of my biggest fears of investing in another place is I don't know what's going on, the geopolitical issues that are going locally as well as macro. What a property may look good from a number standpoint, but the biggest fear I have is, well, what if something occurs where like a local hospital system goes down or, whatever goes down and people can't afford to pay the rents anymore. And I think definitely going through that process with Humberto and understanding where we're investing, that there's so many different employers out there and what the radius is in accordance to the houses that we're looking for based off of the budget that we have. That really helped me feel a lot more confident in saying, okay, this is the neighborhood or this is the area that we want to invest in. And I don't have to like lose sleep worrying about, well, will people be able to pay for this? If we lose a tenant, will we be able to get another tenant? That's something that for me made me feel a lot more confident. And obviously I'm not going to fly to whatever part of the country that we're investing in if it's far away. If I can drive, great. But, we're looking in Texas also. I can't just get on a plane with it. We got 2 kids. We ain't got time for that. So being able to have that conversation and that type of deep dive was super, super exciting.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And I think, each step along the way, what we're looking to do is start to automate that local market knowledge. And part of that is human driven and part of that is data driven today. And so, we're chipping away at that at each step, but, Humberto does a great job of that, of being able to provide a background of, for example, in Spring, Texas, there's a new HP campus that's opening up in 2022. And that's kind of a big draw for a lot of our investors and staying up to date on that local news and new employers, as well as understanding, the more micro level economic data and changes to those particular neighborhoods and submarkets to keep our investors investing in new appreciating areas.
Oh, yeah. That's the part that for me and for people who are listening, I think is the part that, that's where I think they feel a lot more confident. If they know that the neighborhood or the market, so to speak, can support their investment, then I think a lot more people will feel a lot much more confident, particularly when you come from something like medicine, right? Like you're learning a whole new set of language and that you make money guaranteed by going to the hospital. You want to make sure that you're going to be getting, as close to a guaranteed cash on return on your money as possible. So I'm really interested in the mission of Awning. Like, why take this approach? Because I first heard about you guys on Bigger Pockets. I know that Bigger Pockets, for the most part, is driving the conversations, particularly for people like me, just regular folk who are interested in getting into real estate and really driving that conversation. What's the mission of Awning? Why are you guys doing all this?
Yeah, we want to help people achieve financial independence. So, a little backstory: my co-founder Danis, who isn't here, his parents were really humble immigrants to our country. They moved here, they got jobs, hustling. She was running a day out of their house, just had a bunch of kids around them growing up. His dad was a school teacher, and with such a low income that they had and the hustle they had, most people would say, well, these people are going to have just a very ordinary or maybe even a difficult time with retirement, especially in the economy we're at today. But because of real estate investing, they were able to make a life for themselves. In fact, today, the two of them, by saving up, aggressively limiting their spend and investing in rental properties, now have a 40 home portfolio fully paid in the DFW area.
You see my face? Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Okay.
That was what my face looked like the first time I heard that story too.
Especially when he said fully paid for. I was like, wait, what? Okay.
Yeah, fully paid for, that they can live off of healthily and have a really nice life, a life that wasn't afforded to them earlier on because they didn't have those salaries. And helping people like that is amazing. Helping people who want to reach their dreams and goals is always a really satisfying process and experience. And I think what we saw in the real estate market is, right now it is a full-time job almost to get into real estate because it's really hard to figure out what properties to acquire. Your agents aren't that helpful in the process because they work with personal home buyers. They don't work with rental property investors. And then people don't know things about how to manage and stuff. And so you have to do all this education. You have to kind of do things on your own. You're building Excel spreadsheets and using Zillow. And, what we hear from our customers is before they found us, they were spending 4 hours a day. And, that takes the passive investment out of passive investment, right? So for us, it was about just enabling more people who have access to this sort of life-changing investment, the ability to invest in real estate by making that process easier using great human beings like the folks on Andreas's team, like Umberto that you mentioned, as well as technology to support that process and make people feel confident in the decisions that they're making.
I didn't know how much having a realtor who understood investing made a huge difference. And I didn't know that, like, you just assume like, okay, well, you're into real estate and maybe you don't work with a bunch of different people who are investors, but like that should translate, right? No, it does not. So like having someone, meeting with Humberto, who is an investor himself and understanding the lingo and exactly what we're looking for, it made for such a really smooth and, really efficient conversation because he knew exactly what we were looking for, spoke our language, wasn't, all about this. Oh, this is something that you can raise your kids in. Like, we ain't trying to hear all that. Like, we want to get as much profit as possible and, not make as many mistakes as we don't want to, obviously. So I definitely agree with you there. Now, listen, as with most companies, you guys got to make a profit. So talk to us. We want to know, how does Awning get paid if I purchase a property through Awning and so forth?
Yeah, absolutely. We know investors are obviously very money conscious. And so we invested heavily in technology so that we could provide this service at no additional charge to traditional real estate brokerage. Basically, the way a traditional real estate brokerage makes money is when a seller lists their home, they have a sell side agent commission and a buy side agent commission built into it. It's about 2 to 3% for both sides. And so Awning just makes the money that is in that seller's contract from the purchase price of the sale. So if you put an offer on a property for $300,000 and you buy it, you pay that $300,000. Awning doesn't take any extra money from you. All money comes out from the seller side of that commission.
And that's it.
Yep. And that's it.
All right. Okay, cool. That's what I like. That's what I like to hear. So awesome. So listen, for people who want to use Awning. I definitely can say that I heard about you guys on Bigger Pockets and I wanted to learn more. And as we're going through this process, I actually use the Bigger Pockets calculator to look at when we go through a deep dive, when we're talking with Umberto and we're looking at property, we're actually using the Bigger Pockets calculator, not your numbers, right? And they actually match, which made us feel really comfortable. And being able to have that type of conversation with our advisor and it be out in the open is also something that makes us feel a lot more relaxed, right? Because sometimes you may feel like, oh, well, I don't want to tell them where we got this from or her where we got these numbers from. And it may feel like a contentious type of relationship, but that's actually welcomed. And I think that that's kudos. I got to give you guys kudos for that because that makes me and Renee feel very, very comfortable that the decision and the education and the information that's being sent to us is actually vetted. So props to you guys.
That's great to hear, Dr. Nee. Yeah, we hear from a lot of customers the first days of using Awning, they have their spreadsheet open or the Bigger Pockets calculator or something else. And, for us, that's a magical moment when they see the numbers in their spreadsheet or the numbers on Bigger Pockets and they line up with the numbers in our product.
So what is something that you want to share with people that I haven't asked you right now? Tell us something that we need to know right now.
Yeah. Dre, do you have an answer to this one? I got to think a little bit.
I like to put my clients on the spot. So.
So I think right now I just guess expansion. So I think that we're growing really quickly. Our team is growing really quickly. We are going to be expanding to Georgia, Alabama, and North Carolina. And there's been a lot of demand for some of those Southeast states.
Ooh,
and
Georgia,
that's going to bring a lot
Georgia.
higher yield opportunities. And more cash flow for investors or just lower price points. A lot of our investors come to us and they want to kind of dip their toes in and they want to, feel comfortable. And so they start maybe at that $200,000-$300,000 price point. And now we're going to have a lot more inventory in that area with higher cash flow returns.
I love it. Listen, so if someone wants to learn about Awning, where do they go? Where do they start? Tell them about that.
Go to awning.com, awning.com. And they just sign up. They can read about us on our website and they'll get connected with Humberto or someone else on the team who can support them through their entire process. And it costs nothing, right, to have a conversation with us. We're here to help. If you're someone who's looking to buy right now or someone who's looking to buy a year from now and just need to have a conversation to get started, we're here to help you out and get you started on your journey.
This is dope. Hey guys, busy professionals, everybody who's listening right now, you want to get into real estate, but not sure exactly how to start or kind of worried about, what to do in this process. Me and Renee, we're going through this process with Awning right now. We're getting really close. We're focused on the Houston market right now, possibly even San Antonio. You guys got to let us know when you need to go into Georgia because we're all about that. I used to do my residency in Atlanta. So as soon as you guys get in there, I'm going to be excited. So far, the experience has been great. And we're documenting that. Listen, guys, if you are running or if you are not in a place where you can write down their URL, it's going to be in the show notes. So Sri, Dre from Awning, thank you so much for coming on Docs Outside the Box.
Thanks, Dr. Nee. Really nice chatting with you.